The grand ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, each light reflecting off-polished marble floors and the polished shoes of the city's elite. Guests in elegant gowns and tailored tuxedos murmured quietly among themselves, champagne flutes in hand, their eyes scanning the room for the next spectacle of wealth and status. The orchestra played softly, but the tension in the air was palpable. Suddenly it broke. The husband, standing tall with an air of unshakable pride, turned to his wife in front of everyone and said words that sliced through the chatter like a blade. "You are a stain on my reputation." Gasps rippled across the room. Eyes widened, jaws dropped, and for a brief moment, even the musicians faltered. The wife's cheeks burned crimson, her lips trembling as shame and disbelief collided. She tried to steady herself, but the sting of humiliation was immediate and raw. Without a word, she lifted her head, straightened her back, and with silent dignity, walked away from the room, leaving behind a trail of whispers, stunned faces, and unspoken questions about what would happen next. She was the kind of woman who moved through life with quiet grace, her presence calming yet captivating, commanding attention without ever demanding it. Intelligent and perceptive, she understood people in ways others often overlooked, sensing emotions beneath the surface and offering compassion before judgment. Resilient by nature, she had endured challenges that would have broken many, yet she carried herself with dignity, refusing to let hardship define her. Despite her husband's arrogance and cruel words, she had always remained loyal, gentle, and unwaveringly supportive, believing in the sanctity of love and the strength of partnership. Her background was far from the opulence she now navigated. Born into a middle-class family that prized integrity, hard work, and heartfelt connections over wealth or status, she had grown up learning the value of empathy, honesty, and standing up for what is right. These principles shaped her character and guided her through the gilded halls of high society, where appearances often masked greed and ambition. Even now, in the aftermath of public humiliation, her spirit did not shatter. The husband's words had cut deep, leaving invisible scars, but they did not extinguish her inner light. She retreated to quiet spaces, reflecting, processing, and fortifying herself against the cruelty she faced. Behind her serene exterior, a hidden strength simmered, one born of experience, intellect, and a secret she had carried carefully. A side of her that, if revealed, could alter the perceptions of everyone around her and change the course of the night, perhaps even the course of her life. To the outside world, he was the epitome of charm and sophistication. His tailored suits, confident posture, and polished manners made him the center of attention wherever he went. Ambitious and driven, he had carved a name for himself among the city's elite, always striving to climb higher, to be seen, and to be admired. Status wasn't just a measure of success to him, it was everything. Reputation, appearances, and social standing were sacred, far more important than loyalty, love, or genuine human connection. In this glittering world of wealth and influence, personal relationships were secondary. The husband constantly calculated how every action would be perceived, measuring the reactions of powerful friends, rivals, and members of the Duke's inner circle. His fear of gossip was relentless. He worried that any imperfection, any weakness, could be exploited, laughed at, or whispered about in the wrong rooms. The pressure of society weighed heavily on him, amplifying insecurities he hid beneath charm. When he insulted his wife in public, it wasn't only cruelty, it was a calculated move. She represented imperfection, a stain that threatened the flawless image he curated. Influenced by scheming acquaintances and jealous rivals, his fragile ego could not tolerate anything that diminished him. To him, she was a liability, not a partner, and in his mind, humiliation became a weapon to protect his status. As the gala continued, with champagne glasses clinking and the orchestra playing softly, his eyes caught a figure across the room, an elegant woman whose presence immediately commanded attention. At first, he thought it was impossible, a trick of the light or a fleeting resemblance, but as she moved, graceful and poised, the truth struck him like a thunderclap. She was the spitting image of his wife. Every feature, every gesture, every subtle movement mirrored the woman he had just publicly humiliated. Yet there was a difference, a confidence, a spark of independence that made her seem untouchable, untamed, and completely her own. Shock froze him in place, disbelief mingling with an unexpected thrill of intrigue. Who was she? How could she look so identical, yet radiate a presence so entirely different? He watched as she effortlessly engaged with the Duke, exchanging witty remarks and polite smiles, holding herself with a composure he had never witnessed in his wife. The Duke's admiration was visible, the subtle glances and attentive nods signaling interest and respect, only amplifying the husband's growing unease. A flood of conflicting emotions washed over him. Part of him was captivated, drawn to her elegance and poise, while another part feared the social scandal that could erupt from this uncanny resemblance. Guilt mingled with curiosity, and slowly, the woman's presence began to unravel his rigid perceptions. She wasn't just a reflection of his wife, she was a challenge to everything he thought he knew, forcing him to question his arrogance, his judgments, and the very image of the life he had tried to control. The Duke, a man whose reputation for influence and charm preceded him, observed the room with practiced ease. Every movement, every conversation, and every glance was calculated, yet effortless, drawing attention without seeming to try. When his eyes fell on the identical twin, he paused, immediately struck by her poise and elegance. Unlike the usual guests who sought his favor, she held her ground with quiet confidence, her wit sharp and her charm natural. Intrigued, he approached, offering a polite smile and opening a conversation that flowed as easily as if they had known each other for years. The twin responded with equal skill, matching his intelligence with insight, humor with subtlety. The Duke's admiration became evident in the way he leaned slightly closer, listened intently, and laughed softly at her remarks, gestures that contrasted sharply with the husband's haughty arrogance. The husband, observing from a distance, felt an unfamiliar pang of jealousy and unease. His carefully constructed world, where he believed he dictated perception and control, seemed suddenly fragile. Every exchange between the Duke and the twin revealed a power dynamic he had not anticipated. The twin's presence, grace, and intellect threatened not only his ego but also his status among the elite. The scene foreshadowed a shift in influence, one that could unseat his carefully maintained authority and expose the weaknesses he had long ignored. The story of the twins was one wrapped in secrecy and pain, a tale the husband had never known. Born to the same parents, they had been inseparable in early childhood, sharing laughter, dreams, and the comfort of companionship. But circumstances shifted dramatically when family tensions erupted over inheritance and societal expectations. A bitter dispute had forced the twins apart, one remaining under the protective, modest care of their mother's middle-class household, while the other was sent abroad, raised in elite circles that polished her appearance, manners, and worldly knowledge. The wife had grown up with quiet resilience, learning to navigate life with dignity despite challenges and limitations. She understood struggle, perseverance, and empathy, and these traits shaped her into the woman the husband had married, graceful yet grounded, intelligent yet humble. Her twin, in contrast, developed a dazzling confidence, a worldly elegance, and a sharp wit honed in high society. She carried herself with authority, knowing how to command a room and make people listen, a stark contrast to the gentle humility of her sister. Now, after years of separation, the twin appeared at the gala, her presence deliberate and calculated. Whispers followed her, drawing attention and raising curiosity. The husband's mind raced, torn between shock, admiration, and fear. What had brought her here? What secrets did she carry? Secrets that could not only disrupt the evening but expose his arrogance, his poor judgment, and the humiliating truth about how he had treated his own wife. Seeing them side by side, identical yet so different, made him question everything he thought he knew. As he watched the twin converse effortlessly with the Duke and other guests, a sinking realization began to take hold. The charm, poise, and intellect he so admired in the twin were not qualities absent in his wife. They were qualities he had overlooked, dismissed, or misunderstood. Every criticism, every harsh word he had directed at her now echoed back with bitter clarity. Guilt settled heavily on his chest, pressing down with the weight of years spent judging her unfairly. His mind churned with self-recrimination. How many times had he called her weak, inadequate, or a stain on his reputation? How many opportunities had he missed to celebrate her intelligence, her grace, her unwavering support? And now, here was her twin, embodying the very elegance and strength he had failed to recognize, a living reminder of what he had taken for granted. The contrast gnawed at him, unraveling his arrogance piece by piece. Emotional tension surged, leaving him restless and conflicted, unable to focus, unable to act. The gala continued around him, the laughter and chatter fading into the background as he confronted the painful truth. He had been blind, prideful, and cruel. For the first time, he considered facing his mistakes, acknowledging the depth of his misjudgment, and contemplating how, or if, he could ever make amends. The gala, once a scene of measured elegance and polite conversation, had shifted into a charged arena of whispers and sideways glances. Guests exchanged furtive looks, their curiosity ignited by the uncanny resemblance between the wife and her twin. Murmurs rippled through the room, subtle at first, but growing louder as speculation spread. Eyes darted from one woman to the other, comparing gestures, posture, and expressions, as though the room itself demanded answers. The husband felt a tightening in his chest as he noticed the shifting attention, his carefully constructed image of control and superiority slipping like sand through his fingers. The twin, radiant and confident, navigated the attention with effortless charm, drawing the Duke's admiration and polite admiration from other elites. Her every word, laugh, and glance commanded respect, highlighting the husband's misjudgment and arrogance. Meanwhile, the wife moved with quiet composure, her dignity intact, reclaiming moral authority without a single word. The contrast between the two women was undeniable, and the husband's discomfort deepened as social whispers grew into pointed speculation. Guests who had once envied him now observed with thinly veiled amusement, sensing the cracks in his persona. Hidden alliances and unspoken rivalries stirred beneath the glittering surface, while old friends and ambitious acquaintances began to see opportunity in his vulnerability. The atmosphere thickened with suspense, a web of secrets, social expectations, and hidden motives converging into a moment that promised dramatic consequences. The husband's desperation mounted, knowing that the evening had begun to unravel his carefully curated reputation, leaving him exposed in a world where appearances were everything. Unable to bear the growing tension any longer, the husband found a quiet corner of the ballroom and pulled his wife aside, his face a mixture of frustration, guilt, and disbelief. Words tumbled awkwardly from his lips at first, defensive and jagged, as he tried to justify his past arrogance and harsh judgments. He accused, pleaded, and flailed, each sentence betraying the fragility of the ego he had so carefully built. The wife stood tall, her expression steady, her voice calm but resolute. She did not shout, she did not plead. She simply spoke the truth he had refused to hear for so long, forcing him to confront the cruelty, unfairness, and arrogance of his behavior. The twin stepped forward, her presence deliberate and authoritative. She revealed truths that had been hidden, subtle connections and observations that highlighted the husband's misjudgment and blind pride. Each word struck him like a mirror held to his soul, reflecting not only his public failings, but his private blindness to the woman he had vowed to cherish. Emotions collided in that tense moment: shame, anger, regret, and the faint stirrings of understanding. The wife's strength and dignity contrasted sharply with his vulnerability, illuminating a moral lesson he could no longer ignore. True respect, empathy, and perception could never be substituted by arrogance or pride. The confrontation left him shaken, forced to reckon with the consequences of his actions and the reality of the life he had nearly destroyed. In the aftermath of the confrontation, the husband's arrogance had finally crumbled. Humbled and introspective, he recognized the depth of his mistakes and the pain his words and actions had caused. His reputation among the elite had been shaken, not through scandal alone, but through the undeniable display of his wife's strength and the twins' poised influence. The social circle that had once admired him now regarded him with cautious respect tinged with wariness, aware that he had been unmasked in both character and judgment. The wife emerged empowered, her dignity intact, her quiet resilience now visible to all who had witnessed the evening's drama. She had navigated humiliation and deception with grace, reclaiming her place not through confrontation, but through steadfast composure and self-respect. Her personal growth became apparent, her confidence reinforced, and her identity reaffirmed in a world that often judged harshly and superficially. The twins' role was clarified. Her presence had been a catalyst, not a competitor, revealing truths that the husband had long ignored. The episode illuminated themes of recognition, societal pressure, and the fragility of ego, teaching that understanding and respect carry more weight than status or appearances. As the gala drew to a close, a sense of hope lingered. Dignity, empathy, and authentic strength had reclaimed their rightful place, proving that even in the glare of judgment, true character endures. Just as the gala seemed to settle into a semblance of order, the twin revealed a secret that sent a ripple through the room. She produced documents and letters, long hidden, that reshaped the family's legacy and inheritance, proving that the husband's assumptions and judgments had been not only cruel but entirely misguided. The elite guests murmured in shock, realizing how fragile the constructs of reputation and status truly were. The husband's arrogance, once a shield, now stood exposed, a glaring testament to how easily pride can blind even the most confident. In contrast, the wife's courage, resilience, and unwavering dignity had never faltered, and the twins' poised intervention highlighted the strength that comes from clarity, truth, and integrity. The social order had shifted subtly yet irrevocably, teaching all present a profound lesson about perception, respect, and the dangers of hasty judgment. One moment of arrogance stained his judgment, until the truth mirrored back at him in a way he could never ignore.